Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. News headlines on the recent floods have mainly focused on the humanitarian efforts, stories of Kita Jaga Kita and everyday heroism, as well as the inadequacy of the flood disaster response by government agencies. But what about the impact on the business sector, from manufacturing to retail? Has the final bill been tallied? Let's speak first to Dr. Amir Ali Maidin. He's the managing director of the hypermarket emporium chain Maidin. He's also the president of the Bumiputra Retailers Organization. Dr. Amir, you were recently in the news for saying that you forgive looters who had broken into the Sri Muda store, saying that they must have had no other option but to steal but to survive. So good on you for doing that. But we also understand that 6 or 7 of your stores have been affected by the recent floods. Maybe you can begin by giving us a sense of the scale of damage to your business.
Okay, thank you, Melisa.
I think basically it's a tough call. I think we all understand. This was on kata banjir kilat. Banjir kilat. It was really, we were not aware. I think all of us were caught off guard. So the damage is more than what is usual if we have got what we call advance notice, maybe from the government or from the from the weather department. So the damage is massive. I think I've heard the news. Basically, one of my stores in Taman Sri Muda, the flood there was up to 15 to 20 feet. Okay, that we accept. But as the flood water were coming down, and we start being about a shoulder height. Unfortunately, we saw people breaking in into the roller shutter. They broke the roller shutter. They went in, and I think there are two parts to this, lah. What is this happening? Why is this happening? This is vandalism. This should not be happening. But this is not a normal circumstances. So we really have to be patient. We got to think through this carefully. Why are people doing this? So I actually made the decision that let's not have these people carry the burden of doing something wrong. Some people might be desperate. We are not here to judge people. I think let God judge people. So I decided to halalkan so that the people who have taken things for the sake, because to give to others who are, I think, move on. I know it's a couple of $1 million now. Now we know because this morning we were able to enter the store. Actually, the store is literally empty. Not damaged by flood. That's one cause of it. But I think I think this is important. And I hope all Malaysians do this.
That there was no advance notice given. Would you have done things differently if there was notice? I understand that it was over a weekend. Would you have done anything differently if the government had given an advance notice of extremely heavy rainfall and the possibility of flooding?
No, I think everyone will have done something. But the advance notice will help. Nobody can do things if floods go up to 18 to 20 feet. I'm from Kelantan and almost every year.
And we have floods almost every year. Normally, when flood waters come into about, say, 1 feet, 2 feet, we were able to bring up our goods to save whatever we can. But I think at this kind of thing, there's nothing much we can do. But I know really that's what happened. But I think people, businesses, it's not so easy. But homes, other people, they could have done something if they knew earlier. They could have stockpiled the thing. They could have bought candles, torchlights, for whatever necessity possible. At least they would not be going hungry. I think this is the most important thing.
In terms of, from a business perspective, insurance would be, I guess, part of the cost. How adequately are businesses like yourself covered for these kinds of events?
Of course, we insure things for certain value, but none of us really will over-insure because there's a very big cost to it. But, it's very difficult. I mean, for floods, normally we are insured, and I hope the insurance people will not be difficult. I can tell you it's not so easy to claim insurance. They also normally have 1,000,002 reasons not to pay you for whatever reason. But when it comes to looting, when it comes to vandalism, that part probably is going to be a tough call because the losses could run into millions of dollars. And normally, when you insure against theft, you insure a certain amount, and what they call it is the first loss kind of thing. You see? So you got a 3 million stock, you probably assume if there's a theft, they will take away the money, they will take away most valuable things like watches, and you insure for 200,000-300,000. You don't insure to say that somebody going to come in and take away the whole shop and make it empty. And this is what actually has happened, unfortunately.
Right. Well, but damage, in a natural disaster like a flood is not just damage to physical buildings or to goods, stock and your infrastructure. It's also cost of cleaning and cost of repairs, and also loss of business during that time, the opportunity cost, and also loss of work days for workers who may be directly impacted by the flooding. How do we think about the scale of economic damages or the financial losses that may be incurred for this the recent floodings? How would you go about doing an assessment if you're thinking about just your business? That's one business out of many that have been impacted. Any thoughts, Dr. Admin?
No, I think basically, as you mentioned, I mean, the true cost of flood damage are greater than what we realize. Obviously, the damage to the assets, you can work out the damage to the goods. We can work out, we're estimating about 3 to 4 million in terms of just one particular outlet. But you are right to say the opportunity cost. I mean, rental will go on. I mean, landlords are not so kind. TNB will ask for the electric bill. We have to pay all our 100 over staff their wages. So all this, and we expect, at least for this Taman Sri Muda, to at least take 2 to 3 months minimum to get it up and running again. So that cost just for small business. I mean, this is one of our smaller outlets, mind you. It would be very, very substantial. And no one covers this cost. I mean, there is some insurance available normally, but most businesses, we don't cover the so-called consequential cost.
You are president of the Bumiputera Retailers Organization. Are you hearing from your peers, people within the organization, about their experiences? And what are they saying to you about the impact that this has had on them?
I think the main thing here, it is such a pity. I mean, in the Malay proverb, we say, jatuh di timpa tangga, because we were just in businesses coming up after this COVID-19 2-year pandemic.
Sales were going up to 70% to pre-pandemic levels. All of us were happy. Restaurants were getting full and those kind of things, right? I mean, it's not back to pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, but at least something. And now this has affected the businesses one more time, although it's certain parts in Selangor. But more importantly, the supply chain has been disrupted. We know that this supply chain has already been massively disrupted during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's still going on. Prices have gone up, container prices have gone up. Now, actually, in Maidin especially, we have a lot of NGOs who come and buy towels, blankets, they want mattresses, they want rice cookers. And seriously, many of these things are out of stock. And even our main suppliers, some have been affected by flood. Some just cannot send the goods because the roads are closed. So the effect is massive. Seriously, you run into billions of dollars. And I think the government will really, really seriously have to look at how to manage this crisis, because 1,000 ringgit, 500 ringgit, I mean, I think the government got to think through this. This kind of 500,000 ringgit, yeah, it's good. I mean, please give. I'm not saying don't give. There are needy people out there. But I think we've got to look at the bigger picture. This is not going to help the economy.
Well, precisely with even with the kind of COVID crisis and the impact to the economy, there was so much push for the government to act and to act quickly with policy interventions and particularly with aid, cash transfers. Dr. Amir, what is it that businesses need right now? In particular, what kind of government aid, what kind of intervention is needed or is expected of the government so that businesses don't find themselves, pardon the pun, inundated underwater?
No, I think the main thing first is infrastructure has to be reinstated. Businesses will sort out by themselves. We will sort out some way or another. What we can claim, we claim. What we need to do, we will do. People who own houses, somehow or another, they will sort things out. Okay, but infrastructure has to be sorted out. We have to make sure the supply chain, works properly. I think these are key factors in any business. The support system must be clear. There must not be massive bureaucracy. I think Malaysia is well known for bureaucracy. I think this is something that we really have to do to sort things out. Unfortunately. Of course, on hindsight, I'm not saying the government is not doing anything. I'm sure they're trying their best. But, there's no really stakeholders meeting, in terms of stakeholders being, if something happens, there are many parties to this puzzle, right? We have the government. Then, of course, we have NGOs. We have got corporate people. We've got individuals who want to support. But everybody is working in silos and trying. Everybody's trying. But I think there's no real, business, there's always one boss, right? And like in my day, so-called I'm the boss. So I will be coordinating. Even now, until 2 a.m. yesterday, I was basically coordinating in terms of supply, in terms of making sure people want to go. Because there has to be one leader who is very clear and telling people exactly what to do. You cannot have everybody talking at the same time, This is leadership. Whether it comes from the Prime Minister, it comes from the Minister in charge, whether it's Bomba or Nagma. I'm not here to blame people. Something is missing somewhere. So all of us, I'm not just saying the government, all of us need really to get our act together. Let's coordinate this. What has happened has happened. Let's always say forgive and forget and move on. But remember, looking at what I was reading this morning, the next wave is coming just next week, right? So are we ready for the next wave? Don't again tell us there's no boats or there is no blanket in northern parts of Malaysia. So I think if they plan now that they can get things done, this is important. Of course, it's easier to sit up on the ivory tower and make statements like this, which I'm making is really, But down on the ground, I've been to ground zero a few times. People are trying their best. I think the government is trying their best, but it will help if they do a slight better coordination. We have good people. Good people.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your insights with us. Dr. Amir Ali Maidin, the Managing Director of the aforementioned Maidin. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Hello, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. With me is Sharaad Kuttan. If you've just joined us, we're discussing the scale of damage and losses caused by the recent floods, particularly on businesses and industry. We speak now to Dr. Shamsuddin Bardan, who's an Executive Director of the Malaysian Employers Federation. Dr. Shamsuddin, we've yet to hear the government's estimation of the economic damages from the recent floods. But I'm just wondering what you're hearing from other industry players about the scale of damage and the impact to their business operations.
I would say that, the damage is really huge in terms of losses suffered by businesses because of the flood, which I would say is very severe. And of course, this had impacted most states in Malaysia, at least 8 states. But the worst hit is basically the Klang Valley area. And of course, we know that the Klang Valley is really the hub of the economic activities for Malaysia itself.
Would you be able to give us a clear sense of the kind of industries that have been impacted? We know of and saw pictures of the Gardenia factory that was flooded, but the focus in the media has tended to be on residential areas that have been flooded, partly because of the humanitarian crisis there. Do you have a tally or a sense of companies that had to close down, or what the cost might be in terms of damaged machines and stuff, and the like?
Of course, in terms of costs, it is still too early for us to make any, I would say, even a rough estimate, in the sense that of course, losses because of the damage to the machineries, to the business premises, things like that can be very huge. And of course, that means that they need to actually put up with the repair costs, things like that. And of course, also when you want to repair your machine, you want to clean up your premises, of course, it will take a pretty long time. At least we can see this at least for another 1 week or so before actually they are able to actually put back their businesses on track. Yeah.
But the danger of that, Samsudin, is, the danger of the delay in accounting for the damage is that then government doesn't truly understand the scale of the financial aid that is required to help businesses get back on their feet. If you think about, the aid that's being offered to households, 1,000 ringgit, and think of the scale of damage and the amount of repairs that perhaps some households need to fork out, I don't think that it's commensurate. I'm just wondering, wouldn't it be better for industry players to get a figure together and seek help from government? What is it that you want government to do right now in terms of government aid and intervention that will help businesses?
Yeah, of course, I would say it is best that if we are able to put up an estimate on the kind of funding that we require from the government. But at least now, we hear that some of the financial institutions, through the government's effort, had actually offered softer loans to especially the smaller businesses that have problem in coming up with their cash flow, things like that. Yeah, and of course, a few, at least, more than 100 million had been allocated for this kind of purposes. Of course, we know that it's not going to be enough. Yeah, but the thing is that, of course, I think we need to actually come up with the strategies first for us to come back on track, things like that. And of course, we also see that most of the businesses are actually insured. And of course, they have to make a proper assessment. They have to make the proper procedure so that all the insurance coverage will be able to be claimed appropriately. But of course, the other part is that, when you talk about business loss opportunities, in the sense that they're not able to produce, they are not able to actually put up their products in the market. And of course, they are losing business in that sense. And of course, when you talk about losing businesses in that way, it is not just a particular industry which is going to be impacted. I would say all the industries in Malaysia will be impacted because of the supply chain processes, things like that. And of course, this is something that is very worrying, in the sense that we are just about to be on track, for recovery after long COVID situation. And of course, but now this is really being a dampener in that sense, yeah. And of course, we expect Q4 to be much better than Q3, thing like that. But I would say that because of this flood incident, which is, I would say, once in about 100 years kind of thing, really will pull back those kind of positive development that we had expected to happen in Q4, actually.
That's Ranjan. Do you think that, especially as the criticism of poor government response, poor planning, lack of monitoring of issues of drainage, accusations of negligence, do you think these stories will add up to sort of put pressure on confidence that Malaysia is the place to put locate your businesses? Will it be a kind of a bad omen for foreign investors looking at this country and thinking about investing here?
Yep. I would say that to a certain extent, yes, it may have that dampening effect, but by and large, we know that this is not a normal occasion that is happening. That what I said earlier is once in about 100 years kind of thing. This kind of thing is happening. But yes, of course, the agencies and the authorities involved in mitigating floods should have done much better than what had really happened. And of course, what is also said is that up to today, I would say there are about 33 lives had been lost through this flood. And of course, if there is enough warning, the meteorological authorities should have actually shouted the alarm so that, okay, look, people can get prepared, and really people are preparing to actually evacuate early rather than waiting at their houses, things like that.
What about the human resource part of it? I mean, I know that the government had given a public holiday in order for those involved who are from the civil service to kind of deal with their personal issues. Has the private sector stepped up on that front? Are they giving workers impacted by this flooding a day off or paid leave?
Yeah, I would say that by and large, the private sector had actually always provided this kind of facilities to the employees affected by flood. And this is what we normally, in the private sector, we have benefits such as calamity leave, and of course, for flood, normally, if the employee's residence is affected, things like that, most company would have given them even up to 3 days leave, things like that. And of course, based on MEF own survey on the collective agreement analysis, 77% of the companies actually provided those kind of facilities. And in fact, apart from just giving the leave, some companies, I would say, compassionate enough to give some cash assistance. And of course, the average, as being stated in our survey, is something like from a minimum of 150 ringgit to 3,000 ringgit per employee. So of course, in that sense, of course, MEF always urge employers to really be looking at that kind of assistance to the employees so that they could actually alleviate their hardship because of this flood that is happening.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Datuk Shamsuddin Bardan there from the Malaysian Employers Federation. And that wraps up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
I'm Sharaad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Thank you so much for watching. Good night.